Oh no! No! What the fuck?
Resident Evil 7, mate.
Yes, we just finished it. Usually we record this before we play the game, but it's Resident Evil. This is a big deal.
Got it on the day.
And after 6. So we did a few things this one. We tried it in the PSVR, which has a 12-month exclusive. So sorry for Vive and Oculus owners. It's going to be a while. And then we also played it on the PC. So we have both perspectives there coming for you. So it's things going in. Let me say it like I hadn't played it yet. Going in, what were we hoping for? One, that it wasn't just like Outlast, because all the trailers show it's all sneaking around. And two, big one for me, that it's a fucking Resident Evil game. After 6, which we co-opt, we just hoped and prayed that in some way it fit into the universe
just a generic
properly.
collar.
Yeah, and it's not going to be a cheapo Gears of War, baby's first Gears of War. So, let's play some Resident Evil 7. Biohazard.
Ooh, spoopy.
Select character.
Resident Evil 7, mate. Biohazard.
Biohazard. Ooh, stars. Stars.
What is this, blood?
What is this? Yeah, all the goodness, man. We're back in the Resident Evil universe after 6, which was a thing. But apparently not. I don't think it's even considered canon at this point by the time we got to 7. I think we're going straight from 5 to 7 is how we're looking at it in the timeline. Yeah, in the timeline, that's how we're going. I think they're going to go 6. Yeah, no, didn't do that. Let's move on a little bit.
Right, fair enough then. Let's just disregard 6. So 7, mate. So what's the story? Give me the setup.
Yeah, so the story is 3 years ago, your waifu went babysitting a young girl. So she's like a nanny.
Pretty long order, mate. 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years ago, that's what she did. But she sent you a nice email saying, I'm home soon, miss you, Ethan, who's the main character. Okay. And then she was gone. Bye. Missing.
Fair enough.
So, modern day, 3 years later, you receive an email from her, still alive, saying that she's in the Louisiana Bayou.
Louisiana? Mississippi. Well, the gators be snapping.
Yeah, the gators be snapping. She's down in Mississippi, and help, please. Help.
Really?
So you find out where she is. So you, as the lovely husband, take it upon yourself to head down there in the car and drive down to Louisiana. Yeah, to go and deal with the gators that are dealing with this situation. So we can tell a little bit more of the story because it's what all the trailers and stuff have been about. Once you get there, you are introduced to the family. And this is where it all kicks off. So the trailers have given the game a very cannibalistic look. And a lot of the family is based off Texas Chainsaw 2, which a lot of people might not have seen. But you get the idea, Hills of Eyes, very sort of cannibalistic
old
family.
Derelict house.
Yeah, the old hillbilly look to them. So you're going to meet the family, which is the daddy, which is Jack. You're going to meet Mommy Marguerite. You're going to meet the son, Lucas. You're going to meet Zoe, you're going to meet Granny, and Evie. I want to say that we have finished this game, as we said in the intro, the story is great. It's absolutely great.
I was working away while you were playing it, and I couldn't play it myself, but I was looking I didn't want to take my eyes off it.
Yeah, the story is incredible. Everything. It is absolutely fantastic. You're not going to be too disappointed in the story, but we've got something in the conclusion I do want to bring up, but it'll be later in the video. But the story is absolutely fantastic. Each of the family members makes this game. They're so interesting. They are really, really interesting.
That's cool, that.
Yeah, they've all got their own personal drives and their own personal twisted elements to them. So Jack is just utterly insane, but he's likable. Despite the fact that Daddy, as they call him, like Daddy, is utterly insane and absolutely downright fucking nutballs.
Right.
He's really likable. He's such a fun character.
Not just a brooding sort of...
No, he's not evil for the
hillbilly.
sake of being evil. The character they've given him is really, truly amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Mama is exactly how you'd expect a mama who's lost her goddamn mind to act. And she's really interesting as well. She gives different elements to it. Lucas is the full-on nutball as the son. Like, he's really... Basically, he's Jigsaw. So he's into really elaborate games and plans.
So he's intelligent, but he's just...
Yeah, Lucas is into really
hillbilly.
over-the-top ways of hurting you in very nasty ways.
Right.
And Zoe, Granny, and Evie have different stories, which I'll continue on there. But the family really makes the game.
Yeah,
they absolutely make the game. Yeah,
the fact that you can get invested in that is a big thing in games. That
really invested.
Really
you refer to them as Daddy and Mommy. Like through the game, you're like, "Fuck, Mommy," you know, Daddy's coming. You got to run away, and you feel like this little girl. And of course, your wife Mia plays plays a pretty central role as well, which is going to do there. One thing I want to add into the story section here is they have a really, really classy way of dealing with things that have happened in the past, and that is through the use of VHS tapes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you'll find VHS tapes, you'll slip them into an old school VCR, and what you do is it'll start up like you're going to watch a video, but then you play the tape. You embody someone in the tape.
That's cool. It's not just throwing information at you, you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just like, here's this exposition that we're going to present to you through VHS. So the very first one you do, which sets the scene in the house, is part of a camera crew for sewer gators. And these guys are basically the guys who go hunting for ghosts on reality TV, you know, ghost hunter dickheads.
Yeah.
It's those. But it's in the story, you play the cameraman. And you go through what happened in that VHS tape as a cameraman.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that is also part of the demo reel, so the people are aware of that. But it's a really great touch, and they use that several times throughout the game, and which means you're going to be playing multiple characters. You're going to be doing all that kind of things. Yeah, very, very cool. So that's the story as much as I'm willing to tell you.
Without going into spoiler territory, yeah. I like it. Yeah, you got the setting.
That's where it's going to kick you off. But trust me, the story is worth.
Cool. Right then, pal. Nice segue there, and a good pause into the gameplay.
The gameplay. All right, let's kick off with the VR firstly. Then
we were going to play through this on VR, weren't we?
Yeah, we were. So as I mentioned in the intro, it's a 12-month exclusivity deal with Sony for the Sony PSVR before it unlocks on the Oculus and the Vive. Well, we ended up buying two copies, as we said, because we have the PC and the PlayStation copy. But still, what I will say on the VR, for a solo experience where you're going to kick back and relax for a couple of hours, it's great. It's really, really good. There are lots of scenes like they do in 3D movies when 3D movies just started coming out. You know where they used to like point a finger out of the screen so it got really in your face? Yeah. They do several things in this game. Like you have dinner with the family, again, that's in the trailers, but they're feeding you. And in VR, it is extremely unsettling. Which is what it's supposed to be. It's extremely unsettling, and there's many, many moments like that. It's not over the top with jump scares. There are some, but it's things that are really creepy are very in your face, and VR makes a good setting for that. One thing I will say is, and this depends on everybody, we play a lot of VR in the office, never get motion sick. After like a solid 2-hour block, I felt motion sick playing this. So that's when we turn the VR off.
It's a lot of console-based VR where you're controlling your movement with the pad, but your head is like in different
your body's still.
You've not got
it's very, very high scale.
It's not that immersive.
It's very high scale on that. It is high scale motion sickness that you could get, but not everybody gets that. So it's entirely down to you. Not everybody gets that level of motion sick. I would say that it made me stop playing it in VR mainly because we put in like 7-hour sessions, which I knew was just going to be too much at that point. I was like, "There's no point in doing this. We're not going to make it through the whole day." If you're doing it in little blocks, and one thing I noticed a lot of streamers doing when I checked afterwards was doing like 10 minutes of the game, then taking their headset off and reading chat and catching up, then going back into the VR.
Really?
Yeah, that seemed to help them out and keep going throughout a longer period of time.
Is that just because we were a massive puss?
No, I don't. Well, I mean, this isn't part of the Mate's What, but we did see a lot of streamers who clearly had watched what was going to happen before they played it. Right, it was so obvious.
So they could.
But whatever. But if you're going to play like like an hour at night or something like that, if you're not going to like hardcore just bog through the game, you should be fine, and you will get a good benefit out of VR. A couple of things though. There are some issues with the VR, such as there's no animation for crouching. And you have to crouch quite a lot. So what it does is it fades you to black, and then it brings the screen back up where you're in a crouch position. It doesn't lower you down.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it does do that. It's not that noticeable when you're playing it, honestly. It didn't bother me.
Yeah.
But it is something that happens. And also, with the set pieces, because the set pieces have to happen with your character being in a certain place, what it'll do is it'll fade to black really quickly, move you, and then fade you back in the correct position. To do the set pieces. And also, if you're moving like slightly out of the camera range, or you move your head in a certain way that the camera doesn't pick it up exactly, it fades it to black and you can't see anything until you get back into position, but the game continues. Now, you might only lose 4 or 5 seconds of vision, but at that point, you might miss something that, and again, I can't spoil it, very, very cool.
I think we had this happen, if I'm
Yes, you had to physically move me in the chair to make it happen. And then that was a point where we missed a very crucial scene with the wife. And when I came back in, things had already happened. And I was like, oh, fuck. So we did miss that. But again, that come down to your camera position and all that kind of stuff. So something to be aware of if you're going to VR. Make sure you're always going to be in line of sight of the camera or you will miss stuff. Again, onto the gameplay then. This is a fucking horror game. For real. This is a horror game. It is grim. I'm talking Dead Space 1 way further than that. It's physically gross in many places, like real gross. Some of the things it asks you to do are really gross. Like I say, jump scares are in there, but that's not really what it's about. It's the atmosphere, it's the setting, and they go
Absolutely.
full, and they don't limit themselves. There were some fights in there where, your imagination go, imagine if they did this, wouldn't that be gross? They fucking did it.
Yeah.
They absolutely did it.
Something that I like, and you can always tell in a horror game, a horror movie, is they put the effort in by creating the atmosphere, because a lot of games, I mean, I'm probably, I'm throwing shade at it, but things like Five Nights at Freddy's, it's just based on a jump scare.
Yeah, it's a jump scare game.
It's cheap. That when you create the atmosphere where every step, the ambience around you, the building, the light,
Yeah, if you think of the intro, you can
effort.
sprint the intro, which is leading to the family's house. But in reality, it takes you about 10 minutes before you even get to the house. And it's all setting it up. And they're all getting ready for it. And they don't pussyfoot around. Let me just say that. This is a horror game. If you're not into horror games, you're probably not going to like it.
Or squeamish.
Or squeamish. There's some very, very gross things in this game. There are some super gross things. But I guess the big question on everybody's lips is this a Resident Evil game? Because we've seen them drift away from that classic formula several times now. Yes. This is very much a Resident Evil game. I mean, straight up. There's loads of callbacks to the original, like homages. One particular, if I mention the shotgun puzzle, to anybody who played the first.
Oh, yeah. We was all hoping for that as well.
It's the exact return. That same puzzle is in there.
Those.
As soon as it happens, you're like, I totally know how to solve this puzzle. And I love that it's that solution. I know what I'm looking for. Like, you pick it up and you're like, I know exactly what I need here to make this work. And this is really great. So on that note, there's lots of puzzle solving, and it's done in Resident Evil style. You're going to be picking up statuettes. You're going to be finding specific keys, doors that only open with specific keys. And those keys are Resident Evil style. There'll be crow keys, snake keys, scorpion keys, all this kind of stuff. You're going to be picking them up. You're going to do a lot of inventory management, which is really cool. So the save rooms make a return. Where you're going to find in there the old item stash, which carries on persistently throughout the game.
Even the music. I think it was definitely Resident Evil 1, but you actually go into a save room and there's a sort of calming piano-esque music in there as well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Good.
There's all sorts of classic Resident Evil stuff in there to set the scene, including herbs and some nice crafting system, but it's Resident Evil style, so you're combining things together, mixing them. You're going to find things like broken guns, and then you're going to do something with it. You're going to be just doing all kinds of stuff that you would have done in Resident Evil 1 through 4 mainly, a touch of 5, but definitely 1 through 4. You're going to be like, this is a Resident Evil game.
did notice on the stream, and it was funny because it came like a running gag, is because obviously at the start you only have a limited amount of inventory. And the best pickup that you got wasn't a Magnum, wasn't a grenade launcher, it was a bigger backpack.
So happy.
Was so good.
So happy to get a bigger backpack. Getting more inventory space was like, fuck yes, dude. This is awesome. This is exactly what I need, was a bigger backpack. Yeah. Better than anything else. I had moments in this that I haven't had for a long time where you finally complete a lot of stuff and then you get the key. Because you'll keep bumping, like in all those Resident Evils, you go to a door, it's locked, there's a symbol of a thing on the door, and you're like, fuck's sake, what is in there?
Yep.
And then eventually you get that key, and all you think in your mind is, oh my god, so much more of the mansion has opened up. And I can now just go back and explore and do all these crazy things. Because you're like, this is really exciting getting this fucking snake key.
That's the beauty
I can go
of
do all kinds of
classic
things.
One in the mansion.
Yeah, because I would even postulate to say there's only 4 areas in this game. There's the mansion, which is very Resident Evil 1 style. Very Resident Evil 1.
Is this going to go into spoiler terms?
No, not at all. There's the mansion and there's some outdoor areas. But there's only like 4 places in total for the whole game.
Right.
But they reuse them so well that it keeps developing and it keeps growing. And then they can put more stuff in. So from Resident Evil 1, you might go back into a corridor and then suddenly these dogs appear this time. They weren't there. You've been through this corridor like 12 times. Now you go back through, and because you've progressed the game, now dogs come down through the window and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Lots of that, which makes it into a fucking Resident Evil game. You've also got to take into
consideration that it's not only space that is you walking around and using up your time, but also time's a factor as well when going through these areas in different periods of time, like you said in the VHS as well. That's
exactly.
Well.
So then VHS has come back into play by showing you things that these guys found. Then you're like, oh, okay, I can do that. Which is very, very cool. Let's talk about the gunplay then. So it's in first person now, not third person, which I'm fine with because I prefer first person to third. But that's subjective, so I'm not going to get into that. But it is there. But it's not Doom. It's not CS fucking Go, right? So your gunfire is intentionally not amazing, and it's supposed to be like that because the enemies are pretty slow and lumbering, and you're supposed to be watching them. So there's a guard system in the game. So if they go for a melee swipe, you're supposed to be guarding against it to reduce the damage you take. So you'll find enemies that can one-shot you, or they can hit you 12 times if you guard it properly, which is really, really
nice.
Also,
a big theme with that is all Resident Evil games have usually been very sensitive about ammo. You've got to be
Oh
careful
yeah, really
with your
bad.
ammo consumption as
really
well.
bad with the ammo.
So you can't just
especially
go
with the crafting
wild.
system. No, you can't. You're holding back all the time
Yeah.
until you're like, oh my god, please give me something here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm desperately out of ammo. But yeah, your gunfire fires quite slow. Once you shoot a bullet, your reticle's going to expand and all that kind of stuff. So you're taking you're trying to be accurate, but the enemies are also quite fast. I said they're slow, but they can shimmy and duck and dive quite fast.
Yeah.
So you
Also
will be missing a
variations
lot.
of enemy as well.
Yeah, there's a few variations of enemies. Not a great deal. It's limited. But the enemies are not zombies. There's no zombies in this one. It's fungal monsters. Similar to kind of 5, really, where it wasn't zombie-based. They were just
So
different
it's
twists on it.
it's a side story.
See, I don't want to get into it, but let me just say this. This whole game takes place properly in the Resident Evil universe.
Right, okay.
Okay, it all properly takes place in
Cemented.
the... Yes, it is there, which they don't show in any of the trailers, but yes, it is there. But I can't spoil how it's used. So the gunplay is actually fine. I'm happy there's no zombies. Zombies are everywhere these days. They don't mean a goddamn thing, so you go with this fungal monster thing. But again, the real stars are the family, and their boss fights are really good. And I can't show them on screen, unfortunately, but they're really good.
Yeah.
Really, really, really good. You got the collectibles as well from Resident Evil 7. There's some bobbleheads to smash up, but particularly the antique coins, which is, again, it's a very Resident Evil thing, and you'll find these cages that take antique coins, and you can spend them however you want.
Oh, so
you
it's
get-
like a currency pickup.
yeah, you rarely pick them up. I mean, I think there's only 20 in the game or something like that. But once you get them, you'll find your safe zone area where you can turn them in, and you can get things like permanent start upgrades, or of course the classic Resident Evil Magnum is the most expensive, and it's in there. It is in there indeed. So that
Cool.
is your gameplay. You're going
That sounds really, really good. I mean, watching it was like a movie. I think there's rarely a game where I can watch someone else play a game for the game, not the person, just for the game, and be that invested in it.
Yeah, so if we go to the conclusions here,
Yeah.
like I'm going to say, 99% of the game, I was 100% engaged. I wasn't bored for a moment. I was trying to figure out what the story is because the
always have
story
something to
makes
do.
sense.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that the story makes sense. And they reveal information to you in such a way that you can kind of work out what's going on, but you're never sure. And then you get, confirmed. You're like, oh, no
Yeah.
way, confirmed that's actually what's
So
going on.
it's just like The Last Guardian.
Well, yeah, you are skipping ahead there. There was no laborious process or tedium. Every time I was doing something, it's because I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't get stuck for any points of time. What they've done with this game is looked at the horror genre as a whole. I'm not talking just games, but movies as well, over the last 5 years or so, and they've taken elements out of those games, improved them, made them better, and then put it in this nice Resident Evil package. So you will get elements of Outlast, which I think a lot of people... At the beginning of the game, it's very Outlast-esque, where you're hiding. You don't have much to deal with. You're going to be ducking and diving. Things are going to be looking for you. And then it moves into, Dark Souls style, I could even say. Some very Dark Souls-ish elements. There's a lot of action in the game. And they've taken elements from Saw. Like I say, Lucas is essentially Jigsaw. So if you're not into the idea of being in horror, terror, trap rooms, you might have a bad time here. You're going to be dealing with some very horrific, very nasty, but clever puzzles. Yeah. But it's got that lovely polish on it of a AAA game.
So it sounds like you enjoyed that, pal, but however, now, I'm going to have to ask, hit me with some cons.
Yeah, the cons. Okay, like I said, 99%, that's the case.
Uh-oh.
The ending is shit.
Really?
The ending
I didn't
is
see
really
it.
weak. The ending is so weak. And to the point where obviously I streamed it, and I was like, I think we just finished the game. And people were like, nah. And then it's like, I just got 3 achievements, on Steam. I'm pretty sure I just
One of them,
finished the
I
game.
saw the achievement pop up and it was a pretty solidified, you finished the game.
You finished the game. And I was
Yeah.
like, is that really the ending? Dude.
Wow.
That sucks. And once we thought about it, it does seem, it seems pretty obvious, is that they broadcast the fact there's DLC coming for this game, immediately after the credits there's an advert that there's DLC coming with a certain character. The season pass is up there. It does seem that they literally chopped parts out of the main game just for DLC stories.
That's
And it feels
horrific.
that, because there's a couple of... Now, I'm not saying the base game is unfinished. It is finished, but there are things that you'll be wondering about, have you really just left that part unfinished, or this part not done? What about this bit and this bit? And there's just no answer. It's just the game's finished at that point. And you're like, that's going to be a DLC story. I know it is. And I'm really not a fan where they take... DLC for me is supposed to be an extra part of the story. So if you look at a game like Outlast...
Absolutely.
Outlast is the story of somebody who arrived at the same place, but does something completely different while he's there. It's the same setting and all that, but it works differently. I'm not a fan of DLC, which is here's this storyline, but we're going to stop it there and never resolve it because we're going to continue it later.
A dissection of the main story
A
to
total
sell as a
dissection, and
separate
it does
product.
feel like
it's
that.
fucking bullshit.
The ending came fast and furious, especially as people were estimating it's about a 12-hour playthrough. We were at 8 hours, and I was like, well, we've got plenty more to go. And saying that, people were logging in and like, where are we up to? I'm like, don't worry, we've still got this, and this to deal with. And we didn't. They're just not in the game. We didn't deal with them at all. So, yeah, that was my big
That 1%, man, is... It's criminal how good that game is, and for it to be butchered like that. People are probably going to, well, I'm still going to buy the DLC anyway. That's not the point.
Yeah,
man.
no, that's not the point. The base
feels
game should be
unfinished.
full, and the DLC should add on to that.
It's a deliberate bait
that
to
should
make you
exactly
spend
what
more
should be
money.
going on. But this case, I do believe they've taken some parts out. But I've got, again, a swift reminder is that as downer as the ending is, it is literally the last 4 minutes of what was an 8-hour playthrough for us.
Yeah,
it's the last 4 minutes was like, no, that sucks. But every single element leading up to there was great. Absolutely fantastic.
Cool.
Because, mate, let me stop you there.
All right, go on.
Because we did the ending at the start, we should do the start at the ending, mate.
Yeah.
So Resident Evil 7, mate. Not even played it.
Fucking funny, man. That game's so good. It's so good. Besides
I don't
that
wanna take my
tiny
eyes off
little
it.
bit. That tiny little bit at the end, which and it's not forgiven. It's not forgiven. It's a piece of shit thing to do. But the rest of it, yes. Much yes. Much yes. I will definitely replay it when it does hit the Vive. I don't want to go back to the PSVR too much. Or maybe if it's when it's got better resolution and more power behind it.
Yeah.
Maybe it won't feel as bad. But yeah, very, very cool.
Cool.
Buy it if you unless you're squeamish. Then don't. Because it's gross.
This guy.
If you like that video, check out previous Makes What's. And other than that, you can check the VOD down below. If you're not going to buy it because it is AAA and it's expensive, you can see our playthrough it on Twitch.
And it's fun to watch. I was working and I was like, kept peering over.
Yeah, we
'Cause I didn't want
explored
to take my
all
eyes
the
off the
corners.
story.
I did a pretty full playthrough, honestly. I think we missed like 4 coins and a couple of bobbleheads.
Yeah.
So we did a pretty full playthrough of it.
Cool.
Alright guys, thank you so much for listening.
By getting close without being detected, I can get the jump on them, and in the panic, take down all 3 before they know what's hit them.